What's going on, guys? This is Martyrs Brigade 99 coming to you once again with another session of Dark Souls PvP. Alright guys, we're back at it in the forest, and I actually have a treat for you guys. Now, for a lot of you guys that are familiar with the channel, you guys would know that I've pretty much been off for about, 2 or 3 weeks now. But, I figured that once I made my return that I would have a lot of good material for you. Right, so we're going to start this off with a battle of the uploaders. Right, and the uploader that's going to be featured in this video is good old MrBushidoright. Now, MrBushidoright is definitely a veteran when it comes to Dark Souls in general, but PvP in particular. Why would I suggest that he's a veteran? This guy's basically been doing PvP videos, I would probably say, since the original release of the game last year. Right, I know long before I finally met him, I watched a lot of his kiln videos and a lot of his other videos that he has uploaded and put together. Right, and not only is he a YouTube uploader, but he's also a streamer. Right, he's one of the Twitch bros. Now, I don't really know what his schedule is. For the most part, I think he kind of streams randomly, kind of like whenever he's not working or his schedule is not full, but he's definitely a streamer. And anytime that he does stream, he has a lot of good players, in addition to hosting a lot of good fight clubs, right? Because I've definitely participated in a couple of them myself. Now, also in addition to that, if you guys are familiar, a couple weeks back, I think I did a Rumble in the Jungle featuring good old me and Awesome Sauce. Guess what? This is one of Awesome Sauce's homies. Right? So 2 peas in the pod. I had one a couple weeks ago. Now I'm trying to tighten up the general. Now, this is going to be a long series, right? And I hope you guys will enjoy it. And I think it was a good series. Now, you guys want to be a little honest, just a little honest. I was a little salty in the beginning, right? And the main reason why I was salty in the beginning was because I really thought he was doing a lot of just basically shield up and, just kind of like doing nothing with the shield up. But as the matches, kind of progress and things go on, he definitely changed from, his shield up tactics to the full out offensive Bushido that I and a lot of people know. Right? Case in point, you guys just pay attention. He's not even really attacking. Right? He's just kind of chasing after me with his shield up. And after, I think this is like the 3rd or 4th match where he was doing this, I kind of made a comment like, dude, are you going to do something? Because when I participate in either a Battle of the Build or Battle of the Uploaders or Rumble in the Jungle, a lot of times I'm featuring people who I have seen for myself or have witnessed through personal experience as being very good players. Right? So, when it comes to good players, most of them, and actually that was a good parry right there, speaking of good parries, most of them I like to showcase on videos because, it's basically a recognition of their skill. Right? I know I've had Short Dude in the past. I've had Troll Assassin. I've had 4th Sequence, Infamous Amos, good old, what was that guy? Oh, Eric, EABM, and a host of people, right? And like I said before, I feature them mostly because, I've recognized for myself, in addition to recognition that they've received from others, that they are good players. So that's why within these first few matches, I'm sitting there like, come on, dude. Are you going to attack or what? But, that was my little salt in the beginning. But best believe as the matches develop and as things go on, his tactics will definitely change and will evolve to the Bushido that I have always been familiar with. Alright, so I mean, until we get to that point, let's look at what he's doing now. One thing that I've noticed about his tactics, he's trying to hit me with a lot of, you guys notice that? That's right, that was a dead angle attack. And one thing, I mean, and actually, before I get into that, this is one thing that I have noticed, right? When you play against someone that you know is a good player, usually one of two things will happen, right? Number one, either you will continue to play like you always do, right? Or you'll play a little extra cautiously out of an acknowledgement of the play style and, you know, skill, for lack of better words, of your opponent. And this is what I think he's doing, because I've played Bushido a number of times, and these first, 3 or 4 matches is probably the most conservative play style I've ever seen him, right? But back to what I was saying. You guys would notice, outside of those one-handed R2 attacks, he will attempt a whole bunch of dead angles with that Claymore. And I think he does that mainly because he knows that I'm pretty comfortable with parrying. So any, you know, 2-hit combo is probably best to hit with the first regular. Actually, that was a nice parry right there, and I kind of saw that one coming. And actually, I used to do that to him a lot, so I'm really surprised he didn't run in for the BS. Right? Because I know, and actually, this is the second quote-unquote series that we've had. The first one was when I first met him. You know, I was in the Berg one night, and I saw the name, and I said, holy camole, it's a YouTube big shot, right? And I basically chased him down. I'm like, hey, dude, you know, I'm kind of new to YouTube. You know, can we have some matches? And, you know, this was back in the days when basically I was just starting doing YouTube uploads. And for a lot of you guys that are familiar with the channel, basically when I started, I was one of those hornet ringing medium roll guys. I mean, for a lot of my original material, all I did was medium roll. Now, some of you guys may not be familiar with that now, you know, if you're kind of newer to the channel. And that was mainly because I deleted probably about 30 of my first few uploads. Actually, I can't even say few, because I mean 30 is kind of a lot. I deleted a lot of them, right? But if a lot of you guys are familiar, I did a whole bunch of medium rolling, and it was me. And actually, that footage is uploaded on his channel. Well, actually, I can't even say it is. I'm not really sure, but I do know that it was. And you guys might be able to check that out. It was one where we were both using a katana. He was using a buff. I was not. And I was kind of salty in that match, you know, because I'm like, dude, I mean, you have a buff weapon and I don't. I mean, are we seriously going to fight with buffs? And that was a long time ago, right? But ever since then, I mean, I've improved. He has definitely improved. And a lot of our tactics have changed. And not only that, he has a nice following with regard to his channel and his streams. And with regard to the battle of the uploaders, I figured this would be a very good opportunity. Not only for my subs, but also for the people who know Bushido and his subs. Right. But what I was saying, back to what I was saying about the dead angle attacks. One thing that Bushido knows, because we have fought plenty of times before, a few times where I've come into, you know, some of his Twitch.tv streams, you know, and other times maybe I just caught him somewhere, and he knows that I'm pretty comfortable with pairing. So because of that, I think he is doing a good job at using those dead angling combos, right? Because in most cases, if you try to hit me with a 1-2 punch and you do it more than once to where I recognize it as a pattern, I mean, you're getting parried. Right? And you know what? One thing that I'll kind of draw you guys' attention to. If you ever watch a lot of my recent videos, right? Because I know a couple weeks back I uploaded a video, I think it was titled Parry Spam or Prediction, right? And I was basically comparing the run-up method, the run-up method of parrying, and the prediction method of parrying. One thing you guys will notice about me, if you ever watch some of my recent videos, you guys will notice that to the extent that I am two-handing a weapon, in a lot of cases I will two-hand it only until I recognize that my opponent is doing a lot of R1 spamming, rolling R1s, or two swing combos. And the reason why I do that is because, like I said before, I do not do the run-up parry method. I don't like to spam parries. A lot of times whenever I parry, I like for it to be a prediction based upon a pattern that's already been established by my opponent. And that's pretty much it. You know, I'm not one of those guys that just run around L2, L2, L2. It just looks ridiculous in my personal opinion. So if you guys would notice in a lot of my attack strategies, I am basically engaging until I realize, you know what? My opponent is either an R2 spammer, well actually an R1 spammer, or he does a lot of rolling R1s, or his attack is basically, super duper predictable, right? So I say all that to say I think it was a good job on his part by using those dead angle attempts with that claymore. All right, now let's talk about builds. We both switch off builds, right? I think I use a total of 3, and actually I can't say I think. I use a total of 3 builds, and I think he also uses a total of 3 builds. Now, unfortunately, one thing about Bushido, he doesn't really add commentary, right? So to the extent that he will upload this footage, unfortunately, you can't really hear his perspective, right? Nor will you be able to hear basically his build descriptions. Right, so I'll try to elaborate on them the best that I can. Now, the first build, obviously, you guys saw that it was an onion head build. I'm not really sure if it was a quality. I'm not really sure what it was because it was nothing really fancy or dancy about it. It was basically just an onion bro with what appeared to be either the Canarina leggings or the Elite Night leggings. I can't really tell, but it kind of looks like, I think maybe he had the Elite Night leggings. Now, this is one of his trademark builds. All right, one thing about Bushido, for a lot of you guys that are familiar with him, I would say that big hat is probably his trademark, right? Which is the Logan's hat. He wears that big hat on, I would say, the vast majority of his builds. And as a matter of fact, when I saw him with the Onion Bro get up, I was really surprised, right? Because I'm pretty sure he has builds that he knows of, but I would say in 90% of the cases, all of the builds that I'm familiar with, he is using the big hat. Now, here's one of my this is my second build, right? And as a matter of fact, let me take that back. I use a total of, is it 3? I think it's 3 builds. Right, I use a fast dex, a fast strength, and I use my faith mage. I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with the faith mage. I've used it plenty of times in the past. Now, in the beginning, you guys saw that I was using a Leo ring. Well, that's actually on my fast dex and my fast strength builds, I have an option for me to use a Leo ring. So basically it was just 3 builds that I'll be using. So I really don't have to go into this build, nor do I really have to go into the first build that you saw. I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with my usage of the Leo ring, right? Because I did several videos on that, talking about the benefits of the Leo ring. And I've done a few videos with my Faith Mage. And actually I have 2 hybrid builds. One is my Faith Mage and another is my Faith Pyro build. And I started to use that, but I do know that Bushido, he kind of likes Pyro builds. So, I figured he will be doing Pyro. I'm not going to go ahead and throw more Pyro into the mix. Alright, now, one thing that I did not like about my usage of this build, if you guys will kind of pay attention to my attacks were not really doing anything to him, right? And it's not that I was not connecting. It was just that I think I use a Enchanted Yuki in addition to the S-Stock that you guys see right here. I'm only going to be inflicting that guy with like 100 damage, like 127 or 130. Even with the Yuki, right? Now I know some of you guys may say, dude, what do you expect? You're using an F-stock. But it was pretty much like the same result when I was using the Yuki. And basically when I noticed that relatively low damage output, that's when I said to myself, you know what? Let me just stick with my fast dex or my fast strength build. And you know, after I get done with the Faith Mage, that's basically all you're going to see. Another thing you guys are going to notice, I really did not do a lot of matches with this Faith Mage. As a matter of fact, I did 3 with the Faith Mage, because once I noticed the damage output and I saw how ineffective it was against good old Bushido's builds, you know, I just said, you know what, I'm out of here. Alright, now let's kind of go into his build. Most of his builds, from what I have seen, are made up of some type of katana in addition to pyro. Now, like I said before, I'm pretty sure he has a lot of other builds. I'm just talking about the builds that I have seen in many of his videos, or that I have witnessed from, you know, participating in, you know, a lot of his fight clubs or something like that. Alright, now that was a nice roll BS right there. And, you know, for a lot of you guys that are familiar with me, you guys know how I feel about the roll BS. But just as I said when I was roll BS by good old Awesome Sauce, it is not his main tactic, right? And that was a nice R2 right there. It is not Bushido's main tactic, right? So if he hit me with a roll BS, will I get ticked? Not at all, right? And the reason why I don't get ticked is because he's not one of those guys to do the constant roll BS, which I think is annoying. Now, is there a place for roll BS? Yes. But should it be used as your primary tactic? I do not think so. Right? So this is why when I have matches against guys like this, or, you know, good old Awesome, I mean, I get roll BS. I mean, it gets annoying in some cases. Right? Those cases being when you're fighting against a person who all they do is roll BS. But in cases like this, I don't think anything of it, because I know he has a lot more offensive strategies. And actually, I don't know how I missed that parry right there. Right? It seemed like the timing was right. As a matter of fact, if I had my buckler, I'm pretty confident that I would have connected. Alright, so that's basically my fast dex build right there. And I was just kind of experimenting a little bit with the Silver Knight. I had actually been doing a lot of Silver Knight PvP that, I don't know, I mean, I might upload. I intended to do a volume 2, right? Because for a lot of you guys that are familiar with the channel, I did a Silver Knight, I think 2 or 3 part series, but I was only using the Silver Spear. But lately I have been playing full Silver Knight. Full Silver Knight meaning the spear, the sword, and the dragon great bow, all in one build. Whole 9, incorporating attacks from each weapon that I had. Alright, so enough about that. I'm back on my fast dex build, because one thing that I have realized in the first few matches, medium rolling is not cutting it with this guy. And I think he recognized that when I am medium rolling, more than likely I am using my Leo Ring build. And you know, good old Bushido has faced my Leo Ring build on a number of occasions, and I think he understood that that thing can definitely hurt. And now that I think about it, that's probably one of the reasons why he was playing the way he was within the first, I don't know, 4 or 5 matches. You know, because, you know, even if you guys just kind of check it out again for yourself, he was doing a lot of just almost nothing, just kind of shield upping, right? But now that I think about it, I think, you know, just as I am familiar with a lot of his builds, he is also somewhat familiar with a lot of my builds. Now, for a lot of these matches, they've basically been either we tie, I win 1 or 2, but these first few matches, he really tightened me up, right? But I think from this point onward is when I start to bring my A game. Finally, when I start to bring my A game. Alright, so I'll pull out my handy dandy Chaos Blade, which, I mean, It's not bad. I mean, if you guys are kind of familiar with the channel, you guys will know that I really don't do a lot of katana usage, but every now and then I like to use them, right? I think they're effective. I think they're fast swinging. I think there is minimum room for punishment to the extent that you may miss an attack, and they are therefore effective, and I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people use them. Now, me myself, I mean, I really don't like to jump on bandwagons. Neither do I like to use items of equipment that, you know, is always seen. But, you know, thanks to the more recent patch, and thanks to perhaps a lot of other factors, I've seen a lot more creative builds out there. So, I mean, will I take the time to go on any rants about katanas? Not at all, right? I think the diversification of weapon usage has really been evident, right? Especially within these last few months. And for whatever the reason, I am definitely grateful for it, because I think the creativity with regard to builds have definitely improved. Alright, now, from what I can tell, I think he is using the Silver Knight Sword with, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 pieces of Thorn's armor. I can't really tell. Maybe I'll get a closer look. Okay, and he's using the Obsidian Great Sword, right? And I am just using the high-speed Quilax Fury Sword. Now, one thing about that weapon, I've been doing a lot of practice with unlock playing. Right, and from my personal experience, you know, I know there's a few hot shots out there. They kind of do it all the time. Well, guess what? I'm kind of new to unlock playing. So, you know, I'm just kind of taking it one step at a time. But based upon my own experience, the best weapons for unlock playing is probably horizontal swinging weapons. Right, kind of like the Great Scythe, the R2 from the S-Stock. You know, the Falcon, the Quilax Fury Sword, and a lot of those others. A lot of those, you know, kind of swing down weapons, or what you might call vertical swinging weapons, they're a little more difficult, right? Because they kind of attack in straight lines. So since there's a lot of room for error when you're playing unlocked, I think that's one of the reasons why the horizontal attacking weapons, or the sweeping attack type weapons, are kind of like the best ones. Now, in this particular situation, you guys notice I give them the WTF. And actually, I wasn't trying to be funny, but the thing is, I pulled out my composite bow, but I realized that for whatever reason, I didn't have any arrows slated, or I was too busy trying to watch out for his attacks that I did not press the L2. Right, because for a lot of you guys that have experience with bows, you can equip 2 types of arrows, right, and you just have to switch them out by depressing the L2 button, either the L2 or R2. I can't really remember. All right, so we're back at it with good old Bushido, and I'm still using my fast dexterity build. And you know, you guys see I'm just kind of going through the inventory. I'm going to switch up weapons a little bit. Alright, I'm going to pull out the Great Scythe. Now, I know a lot of you guys may say, dude, I've never seen you use that. But see, hey, like I've said plenty of times, one thing we do in the Brigade, we practice with pretty much all the weapons. Right? I'm not one of those guys that, you know, I just have one weapon that I use and that's pretty much it. No. Because one thing that I believe is that in order for you to become a well-rounded player, you really should get comfortable with using a wide variety of weapons and a wide variety of tactics. Now, you may have some guys who may use, let's just say, a katana, for example. And they say, well, hey, I'm good with katanas, and I mean, I'm good with that, therefore, I mean, I'm good to go. Is there anything wrong with that? Not at all. I'm just talking about what I think, right? I don't want to be the type of person who's known only for using the Chaos Blade, right? Or I don't want to be the type of guy that's known only for using Baldur Swag Swords. Anyone who is familiar with me, or is familiar with the channel, or who have fought me in matches, you guys will know that, I mean, I can go to the katana, I can go to the halberds, I can pull out the strength weapons. I mean, I practice with just about everything, right? Because I really want to become a well-rounded player. I also use hybrid builds, caster builds. Now, I don't really prefer caster builds, but do I get, a sufficient amount of practice with those? I mean, I do. I think I have a number of videos, and I think a lot of you guys can attest to my ability to play with those hybrid caster builds, right? And they're cool. I think castings are cool. You're kind of hitting off with Wrath of Gods and, Pyro and your magics. But at the end of the day, I like pure, sword, shield, bow, whatever the case may be. So that's why in the vast majority of times you guys will see me using melee builds, right? Now, for a lot of you guys like to get real technical on things, when I say melee, right, because I had this guy leave me this comment about, dude, I don't think you know what melee means. Yes, I do know what melee means, dude, but just to get technical, let me define for you what I mean when I say melee. Basically, using any type of attack strategy that does not include casting, right? So, case in point, I use a bow, and I had a guy say, dude, you're using a bow, that's not pure melee. Okay, dude, basically what I'm saying is builds that do not depend on, rely on, or use castings. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and switch it off to my strength build, right? Because like I said before, guys, in the Brigade, we do not practice with just one or two weapons. We like to get practice with a wide variety of weapons, with a wide variety of attack strategies, right? With a wide variety of combinations, right? Because you guys can see I'm using a club right now. In the very beginning, I was using my Leo ring. Earlier I was using my Faith Mage. I pretty much got something for everybody. Alright, now, this is a build that, I think is relatively new. I don't know how long he has been using it, but I have seen a video with him using it once or twice in the past. And this is his dragon build. Now, I don't really know what setup he has with regards to this build, and like I said before, unfortunately, as far as I know, Bushy does not add commentary. He features a lot of matches. He showcases his matches with an awesome music selection. And actually, just to change the subject real quick with regard to music selection, now that's one thing I definitely like about good old Bushy. That dude definitely has good taste in music. Now, I know a lot of you guys understand that, everything is relative. So, relative to my taste, there's a few bros out there that has awesome taste in music. Shout out to good old Barneezy. He's one. He has awesome taste in music. Good old Dark Lord Sin. Shout out to him. That guy has awesome taste in music. Dark Lord Sin can hit you off with the good old hip-hop. Well, he can hit you with some of the good old 80s music. That dude's coming from all angles. Barneezy, that guy can hit you with a nice, cup of tea on a Saturday morning type chill out type deal. But that guy also has awesome music. And last but not least, good old Bushido. That dude definitely has some awesome music taste. Right? Alright, so back on the subject at hand. Now I've seen this build before, and like I said before, unfortunately, since he does not add commentary, at least from what I have noticed, he can't really go in, I'm not really sure if he's going to add any details with regard to what his builds are, what they look like, what they do, what are the benefits, what are the pros and cons, right? So basically we're just going to have to look and see and, go from there, because I don't really know any details about his build. Now, why do I think that's important? Well, one thing that I noticed, he is trying to stagger me a lot, right? And I don't know if he's trying to stagger me just to get hits in with the halberd, or if he's trying to stagger me because perhaps he may have a Leo ring, right? So think about it, guys. Let's just say you're using some of the tactics that good old Bushy is using, right? He's trying to stagger me and poke me with a halberd, which is a thrusting weapon. Now, you already get an attack boost with the Dragon Roar. So think about it, guys. You get your temporary attack boost with the Dragon Roar, in addition to having a Leo ring, I'm pretty sure you could probably hit for like 1,000 off one hit. But I mean, fortunately enough for me, he wasn't able to connect too many times, so I'm just glad that I didn't get a chance to really find out what was going on with that build. Now, one bad thing about that dragon, it has very poor poison resistance, right? So like, and actually, I'm willing to say is almost as poor as the Havel's armor. I mean, that Havel set has very poor poison resistance. So, you know, like 1 or 2 poison arrows, he's pretty much done with regard to being inflicted with poison. Alright, so I'm back at it with my club. And, you know, unfortunately, this is the last match of the series. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will send a link, and actually I'll place a link in the description box to good old Bushy's YouTube channel, in addition to his Twitch channel, and hopefully you guys will be able to check him out on the streams. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the series. Thanks again, Bushy, for participating in the Battle of the Uploaders. And for a lot of you guys on Xbox, please participate with Sunlight Blade, and I will not forget. And a lot of these other guys, they like to do the same thing. Alright guys, until next time, Martyrs Brigade is out.